This man was a victim of racism. Passengers and the flight attendant tried to intervene, but what the captain did left everyone speechless. Stay with us until the end of this video and follow the unexpected outcome of this story. Imagine yourself in a busy airport, people from all over the world crossing the space, suitcases in hand, rushing not to miss their flights. Amidst this typical scene, a passenger stands out, not for his hurry, but for the expression of discomfort and dissatisfaction as he boards a completely full flight. He walks down the narrow aisle of the plane, looking for his seat, and upon finding it, his face changes instantly. Next to his assigned seat, a black man is adjusting his luggage in the overhead compartment. The passenger, a middle-aged white man, hesitates for a moment, clearly displeased. With an expression that mixes surprise and displeasure, he checks his ticket again, as if expecting the seat number to have changed since the last time he looked. At this moment, we are led to think about first impressions and how powerful and sometimes misleading they can be. What goes through this passenger's mind? Why does this simple proximity seem to bother him so much? The answers to these questions may not be immediate, but one thing is certain. The journey that both men are about to embark on will not only be through the sky, but possibly through their own perceptions and prejudices. This is the beginning of a story that, although starting in a common place, promises some uncommon developments. The tension is palpable in the air-conditioned cabin as the passenger reluctantly sits next to the black man. He tries to mask his discomfort, but it is evident. A few minutes pass, and already impatient, he discreetly signals for the flight attendant. When the attendant approaches, he smiles politely, but his eyes reveal an urgency that is not so courteous. "I would like to change seats," he murmurs. "I used my air miles, and I think I deserve a better seat." His voice is calm, but there is a slight tremor that suggests his request is not as simple as it seems. The flight attendant, trained to handle all sorts of situations, offers a professional smile and responds that she will check on the possibility. She knows, as we do, that last-minute requests are complicated, especially on a full flight. The man nods, hopeful, looking around, perhaps seeking invisible allies or just an escape from his palpable discomfort. Meanwhile, the passenger next to him silently observes the scene, aware of what is happening, but choosing, for now, to keep his peace. This interaction, although brief, makes us reflect on the value we place on conveniences and how sometimes they can be masked in excuses that don't tell the whole story. What will the flight attendant say? Will she be able to fulfill this passenger's request? The answer may not be as simple as he expects. The flight attendant, clipboard in hand, returns to the passenger who has been anxiously awaiting a response. Her demeanor is calm, but her words carry a definitive weight. "Unfortunately, sir, we cannot change seats after boarding. Seat changes must be made at the time of booking or at check-in," she explains, maintaining composure in the face of the passenger's visible displeasure. He listens, his expression creasing in frustration. "But this is unacceptable," he replies, raising his voice slightly, attracting curious glances from nearby passengers. "I really need to change seats," he insists, his voice carrying an urgency that goes beyond the simple discomfort of a full flight. The flight attendant, remaining calm in the face of the growing challenge, nods understandingly, even though she knows her options are limited. "I understand your discomfort, sir. Allow me to consult with the captain about what can be done." We ask for a moment of patience. This moment of tension reveals more than just the logistical difficulty of a full flight. It highlights the small battles we all face, the expectations we place on situations beyond our control, and how we handle the responses life gives us. Patience is often more than a virtue, it's a necessity, and now we await the next move, both the passenger and us, caught in the anticipation of what comes next. The wait for the flight attendant's return seems eternal for the impatient passenger. His discomfort grows until, unable to contain his true motivation, he leans discreetly towards the attendant as she passes by and whispers something that reveals his true intentions. "I don't want to sit next to him, you understand, don't you? I prefer to be among people like me." The comment, low but loaded with prejudice, makes the attendant pause. For a moment the air feels heavier, charged with a tension that goes beyond a simple seat change. She looks at the black man sitting calmly beside him, who now raises his eyes, clearly aware of the situation. The flight attendant, with a mix of professionalism and disappointment, responds to the passenger. "I'll see what I can do," she says. But her voice carries a tone that suggests a re-evaluation, not just of the seating possibilities, but of the attitude she faces daily in her job. This exchange, brief but intense, puts into perspective not just the nature of the passenger's request, but also the reality of the prejudice that still permeates even the most public and routine spaces. As she walks away, the ensuing silence speaks volumes, and we, as observers, are led to reflect on the dynamics of power and prejudice unfolding before us. What will happen next? How will the flight attendant handle this revelation? The answer promises to be revealing. The flight attendant walks slowly down the aisle, the passenger's words echoing in her mind. Her experience tells her that each passenger is a world unto themselves, but situations like this test her ability to maintain professionalism in the face of overt prejudice. She reaches the pilot's cabin, knocks lightly, and enters. The conversation with the captain is brief but intense. She explains the situation, emphasizing the need for a solution that maintains the dignity of everyone involved, especially the man who was the target of the racist comment. "We need an approach that respects our zero-tolerance policy for discrimination," she stresses. The captain listens attentively, his serious expression reflecting the gravity of the moment. He agrees, reinforcing that the passenger's conduct cannot be ignored, and promises a solution that upholds the airline's values. When the flight attendant leaves the pilot's cabin, she carries the responsibility of not only informing the passenger of the decision made, but also ensuring that everyone on board feels safe and respected. The tension still permeates the air, but there is a sense that regardless of the outcome, it will be an important step in reaffirming the principles of respect and equality. Now everyone awaits the final decision. How will she balance justice and equity in a situation fraught with emotions and prejudice? The answer, though uncertain, promises to be a pivotal moment on this flight. The cockpit is a place of calm amidst the whirlwind of emotions in the passenger cabin. The captain, after hearing from the flight attendant, reflects for a moment. He is aware that the decision made in this small space will have a significant impact not only on the two men involved, but also on all the passengers and the airline's reputation. The pilot, with years of experience both in flying and managing crisis situations, knows that the measures taken must reinforce the principles of respect and justice. "We will transfer him to first class," he decides, a solution that at first glance seems to reward the racist behavior of the passenger, but there is more to this decision than meets the eye. The flight attendant, though initially surprised by the suggestion, realizes that there is a deeper strategy behind this choice. The captain adds, "This will give him a moment to reflect on his actions in a more isolated space while we address the issue more broadly." He drafts a brief announcement that will be made to all passengers, reinforcing the airline's zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. This approach, he hopes, will serve as a strong reminder that in the confined space of an airplane, dignity and respect must prevail over any personal prejudice. With the decision made, the flight attendant returns to the aisle, ready to implement the resolution that, while it may seem controversial, carries an important lesson. Everyone waits, aware that the next actions will set the tone for the rest of the journey. The captain's announcement echoes through the airplane's speakers as the flight attendant approaches the racist passenger with news of his transfer to first class. A look of surprise and a hint of triumph cross his face, interpreting the decision as a personal victory. "The captain has decided to accommodate you in first class for the remainder of the flight," the flight attendant informs him, maintaining impeccable neutrality in her voice. The passenger gathers his belongings with an air of satisfaction, unaware that the decision carries an educational intention, not a reward. He stands, adjusts his carry-on luggage, and follows the flight attendant down the aisle. The eyes of other passengers follow him, some confused, others disappointed by the apparent reward for his conduct. However, the movement is not just a physical change of seat. It's a preparation for a deeper lesson to come. As the passenger settles into his new seat, more spacious and isolated, he begins to realize that his transfer was not an endorsement of his behavior, but perhaps an opportunity to reflect on his actions and attitudes. First class, with its quietness and isolation, offers a space for introspection, away from judgmental gazes but under the weight of his own choices and prejudices. As the passenger settles into his new seat in first class, briefly enjoying the extra comfort, a flight attendant approaches with a grave expression. She brings news that will transform the course of his journey in a way he did not anticipate. There she begins, her voice firm but gentle. There's been an issue with your baggage. The passenger, who now seemed relaxed and even a bit satisfied with the seat change, frowns, the sense of triumph quickly dissipating. Apparently, there was a discrepancy with your luggage, and as a precaution, we need to investigate further. Therefore, your ticket will be temporarily suspended until we can clarify everything. The news hits him like a cold shower, and the passenger feels the weight of his previous actions and words beginning to have real consequences. He looks around, realizing there are no other passengers close enough to offer words of consolation or even share his discomfort. Isolated in the comfortable yet now lonely first class, he begins to reflect on the possible implications of his behavior and the accusations regarding his baggage. The irony of his current situation, moved to a better place only to face an unexpected problem, does not escape his notice. Now he must wait and ponder his attitudes as the journey takes a completely unforeseen turn. After being informed about the issue with his baggage, the racist passenger feels a growing unease. He barely has time to digest the news when another crew member approaches, this time with a more formal and decisive tone. So after a more detailed review, we have determined that the discrepancy with your baggage violates our security policies. For this reason, we must revoke your ticket and request that you accompany us off the plane. The security officer explains with an authority that leaves no room for objections. Shock and confusion mix on the passenger's face. He tries to argue, seeking some explanation or error in the situation, but his words fail to convince the crew, who are well informed and firm in their procedures. The reality that his actions and prejudices have led to such a direct consequence begins to sink in. Accompanied by a security member, he gathers his belongings and walks down the aisle, now under the watchful eyes of all the passengers. Each step towards the exit is a reminder of the impact of his choices, not just on his travel plans, but also on his dignity and how others perceive his character. As the passenger is escorted down the aisle of the plane, a mixture of emotions stirs among the other passengers. Some glance discreetly from their seats, while others murmur among themselves, expressing surprise and relief. The air is filled with a tense silence, broken only by the firm steps of the security officer. The man, once confident in his demands and prejudices, now walks with his head bowed, the reality of his actions weighing heavily on him. The aircraft door opens, presenting him with the stark contrast of the reality outside the comfortable bubble of first class. The shock of being physically removed from the flight is palpable, and his expression conveys a mix of regret and bewilderment. As the door closes behind him, passengers watching from the window see his figure diminish as he is escorted out of the terminal. This image serves as a silent reminder of the seriousness of the consequences that discriminatory behavior can bring, even in public spaces, like an airplane where every action and word can have immediate and visible repercussions. As the airplane door closes, sealing the fate of the removed passenger, those remaining on board slowly begin to recover from the incident. The murmurs among the passengers increase as each shares their perspective on what happened. A sense of relief permeates the atmosphere, but there's also reflective air about the gravity of what they have just witnessed. An elderly woman, seated near the window, turns to the young man beside her and quietly comments, "Did you see that? It's not every day you see justice happen so swiftly." The young man nods, his eyes still fixed on the spot where the man was escorted out, a clear sign that actions have consequences. Across the aisle, a family with 2 small children discusses the event in softer tones, trying to explain to their kids why the man had to leave the plane. "It's important to be kind and respect everyone, no matter where they come from or what they look like," the mother says, while the curious eyes of the children absorb the unexpected lesson. Meanwhile, the flight crew strives to restore normalcy. The attendant, who dealt directly with the passenger, checks if other passengers need anything, offering reassuring words and a comforting smile. Her professional demeanor helps calm the atmosphere and reaffirms the airline's commitment to safety and mutual respect. At the back of the plane, a group of friends traveling together reflects on the importance of speaking up and acting against prejudice. "It's a reminder that we can't stay silent," one of them observes, reinforcing the idea that every voice is crucial in the fight against racism and intolerance. The discussion about the incident spreads and transforms into a broader conversation about personal experiences with discrimination and how to combat it. Although the flight continues toward its destination, the journey of many passengers has taken a new direction, inspired and perhaps better equipped to confront and challenge prejudice in their own lives. The dialogue about racism that began among the passengers starts to gain depth. In the center of the aircraft, a small group forms an impromptu circle, sharing stories and perspectives on discrimination. A middle-aged man, whose expression reflects lived experiences, speaks about the importance of understanding the roots of prejudice to effectively combat it. Next to him, a young teacher adds her perspective on education as a tool for change. "It's in the early years of school that we can make the most difference," she explains, suggesting that lessons on tolerance and respect should start early. Her voice is firm, reflecting her dedication not only to teaching math and science, but also fundamental human values. An elderly couple listens attentively, occasionally nodding in agreement. The man, who has seen many changes throughout his life, shares a memory of how the world was in his youth and how he believes that, despite everything, progress is being made. "But we still have a long way to go," he reflects, his voice filled with wisdom and a hint of hope. On the other side, a woman traveling alone interjects with a personal story about facing racism in the workplace. She describes how isolated she felt and how she fought to be treated equally, highlighting the importance of supportive colleagues and strong anti-discrimination policies. As these conversations unfold, the flight attendant who initially handled the incident passes by the group, offering water and encouraging the discussion. Her support is not just a gesture of hospitality, but also an affirmation of the safe environment the airline strives to create. This exchange of experiences and ideas among the passengers transforms the airplane into a dynamic forum where voices are heard and lessons are shared. The journey, despite starting with an unpleasant incident, becomes a valuable opportunity for reflection and learning, demonstrating how even the tensest moments can be turned into opportunities for growth and mutual understanding. As the plane cuts through the skies, calm seems to be re-established, but the captain feels it is necessary to reinforce an important message. He activates the intercom system, and his firm, calm voice echoes throughout the cabin. "Dear passengers, as the captain of this flight, I want to thank you all for remaining calm during the incident earlier. It is essential to remember that our company has a zero-tolerance policy for any form of discrimination or prejudice." He pauses, allowing his words to sink in, and continues, "Our crew is trained to ensure the safety and well-being of everyone on board, without exception. We hope that by traveling with us, each of you feels respected and valued." As the captain speaks, the passengers listen attentively, many nodding in agreement. The incident not only sparked a necessary discussion about racism, but also highlighted the importance of the inclusive environment that the company strives to cultivate. A mother takes the moment to explain to her children, who listen with wide eyes, the meaning of the captain's words. "It's important that we learn to respect all people, no matter where they come from or what they look like," she says, reinforcing the message with a mother's loving touch. Finally, the captain concludes his message with an invitation for everyone to continue promoting understanding and tolerance, not just during the flight, but in all areas of their lives. "Together, we can make a difference," he says, before turning off the intercom. Their passengers, now more united by the shared experience, and the captain's words, feel a renewed commitment to confronting prejudice wherever it arises, transforming a moment of tension into a valuable life lesson. As the flight approaches its destination, the reflection provoked by the captain's words continues to resonate throughout the cabin. The passengers, now more aware and thoughtful, begin to prepare for landing, but the incident and subsequent discussion have left an indelible mark. In the window seat, an elderly woman closes her eyes and thinks about the decades she has witnessed of social and cultural change. She feels hopeful, seeing that despite the challenges, there is a continuous effort and a will to improve. With a soft sigh, she promises herself to continue being part of the solution by talking to her grandchildren about the importance of mutual respect. Next to her, a young man who listened to the exchange of ideas during the flight decides that he wants to be more active in social issues. He takes out his phone and begins researching local groups that work against prejudice and discrimination. Inspired by the situation he witnessed, he's determined not to be just a passive observer. Among the seats, a flight attendant observes the subtle but noticeable change in passenger behavior. She feels a quiet pride in how the team handled the situation, reaffirming her personal commitment to always act justly and promote inclusion. At the back of the plane, two friends who traveled together discuss how they can use their professions to positively influence their communities. One is a teacher and the other a journalist. Both recognize the power they hold to shape opinions and attitudes. Finally, as the plane begins its descent, the cabin's energy is a mix of travel fatigue and a new resolve to carry the lessons learned beyond the airplane walls. Each passenger, in their own way, feels touched and motivated to contribute to a more just and equal world. The wheels of the plane touch the ground, and as it taxis to the gate, there is a silent consensus that, although the flight is ending, the journey to combat prejudice and promote equality is just beginning. As the passengers disembark from the plane, the atmosphere of reflection and newfound understanding follows them. In the terminal, while waiting for their luggage, many continue the conversation that began on board. Some exchange contacts, promising to keep the discussion alive and expand their circle of influence to promote equality and mutual respect. One passenger, still moved by the experience, decides to use her skills as a writer to document the incident and its repercussions in a blog that raises awareness about racial issues. She believes that sharing this story can inspire others to reflect and act against prejudice in their own lives. Meanwhile, the young man who started researching organizations during the flight is now engaged in a deep conversation with a new friend he met on board. They discuss plans to participate in a community event that promotes diversity and inclusion. Their energy and enthusiasm are palpable, showing how moments of crisis can turn into opportunities for positive action. In the back of the terminal, the flight crew gathers briefly. They discuss the flight, considering what went well and what could be improved. The captain expresses her satisfaction with the team's performance and the importance of continuing to educate and prepare themselves for handling challenging situations that transcend normal flight operations. Outside, as he walks to the parking lot, one of the passengers makes a call to his family. He shares not just details about the flight, but also the lessons learned. He promises himself to be more active in talking to his children about respecting differences and fighting prejudice. These individual actions, inspired by a single event, begin to weave a network of change that extends far beyond the flight. It is a small step in a long journey, but each step is crucial. The passengers leave the airport carrying not just their luggage, but also a renewed commitment to making a difference wherever their journeys take them. As we conclude this narrative, we reflect on the importance of every moment and interaction in our lives. Today, we witnessed how a situation of prejudice on a flight turned into a powerful opportunity for education and change. But the real question is, how will we apply these lessons in our daily lives? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you had the opportunity to combat prejudice? How did you react? And more importantly, what will you do the next time you encounter a similar situation? These are not just rhetorical questions. They are invitations to action. It's easy to watch and agree, but true change occurs when we apply these teachings outside our comfort zones. I invite you not only to think about these questions, but to act, engage in conversations, participate in community initiatives, educate yourself and others about the importance of inclusion and mutual respect. Every small step we take together can create significant waves of change. If you believe in the power of transformation and want to continue exploring stories that challenge, inspire, and change perspectives, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you won't miss our future discussions and can be part of a community that values respect and diversity. And of course, if this video has sparked something in you, delve deeper and watch the suggested videos on the screen now. Each story is a doorway to new understandings, and each understanding is a step toward a more just world. Thank you for watching, and more importantly, for being willing to make a difference. Let's turn awareness into action together.